Hello dear students, today we are going to discuss chapter 2 of class 7th, History, and the title of the chapter is New Kings and Kingdoms. Dear students, in this chapter we will discuss about the emergence of new kings and kingdoms. So basically in the very beginning of your chapter this map is given, and this is very important to have a look at this map because this will give you some basic understanding about how these dynasties were ruling in different areas and how they emerged from the beginning. So this map is of 7th to 12th century, and here you can see these dynasties which were ruling here in this region. This is Rashtrakutas. Here Rashtrakutas were ruling. Here Chauhans were ruling. The most famous ruler of Chauhans was Prithviraj Chauhan. And here Palas were ruling. And these are Cholas basically, but in the beginning they started from a very small area, but slowly they just expanded their kingdom and they had defeated many neighboring kingdoms and reached up to this region. Even they had even defeated the Cheras and Pandyas and everybody, and this area was controlled by Cholas. So the question arises, when already there are so many powerful kingdoms existing, then how some new kingdoms can emerge? How somebody can become a king from a simple human being? Let's discuss. Basically, the king himself cannot reach everywhere in his kingdom to govern it, to administer it. So he takes help from some brave people. They can be lords, they can be samantas, they can be chiefs, and they are given certain rights to govern these areas. They can collect taxes from people, they can give them justice, they can have soldiers under them. So this way king is able to govern his kingdom with the help of these lords and warriors and chiefs. The word used for them was samanta. Samanta, even they can be addressed as sardars or chiefs and lords. When slowly they became powerful, then kings used to give them titles like Mahasamantas or Mahamandaleshwar. Mahasamanta means you are very powerful Samant, bigger than other Samants, and Mahamandaleshwar, head of a certain region or circle. So these titles show the power of these Samantas. And basically what was the phenomena of new kingdoms emerging? These Samantas went slowly they become very powerful. They challenged the authority of the ruler. The king was addressed by them as like overlord. Okay, so anytime they found their overlord has become weak or the overlord died and the new king is not so powerful, they will declare themselves independent. Independent means now they will say, I am the ruler of this region and I am not going to obey anybody's order. So this way he will start his kingdom in that region, and if he is powerful, he will defeat nearby areas and conquer and expand his kingdom. This is the story which is described in your chapter, how Rashtrakutas started their kingdom. Actually, these Rashtrakutas, they were working under Chalukyas of Karnataka, Chalukya rulers who were ruling in Karnataka region. These Rashtrakuta people, they were working under them as Samantas or as lords. And who was founder of Rashtrakuta dynasty, his name was Danti Durga. This Danti Durga, he declared himself independent and he refused to obey the orders of his overlord. So he became king. First king of Rashtrakutas was Danti Durga, And after that he performed one sacrifice that was known as Hiranyagriha. Hiranyagriha, literally its meaning is the golden womb, but this was performed by any king who was considered that he was not a kshatriya, and because as per Hindu rules and regulations only kshatriyas had the right to become king. Traders and Brahmins and other castes could not be the rulers. So if the person has acquired somehow power and he is not an kshatriya, he will perform this sacrifice. Sacrifice doesn't mean that killing some animal. Here sacrifice means the Hindi word havan. It is kind of ceremony. Okay, so he will perform this Hiranyagriha with the help of Brahmanas, and it will be considered his rebirth as a Kshatriya. Maybe he belongs to some Brahmana caste, he belongs to some Shudra, or he is Vaishya. But if he performs Hiranyagriha with the help of well-educated Pandits, Brahmanas, then he will be considered that he is now reborn, he has taken a new birth, and now he is a Kshatriya and he has right to rule. So that was the story of Rashtrakutas. Let us talk about these kingdoms of Karnataka and Rajasthan in these two different regions. Basically, one type of emergence of new kingdoms I have told you about, Samantas or lords, they will declare themselves independent. Another method of these kingdoms coming into existence was that in some cases, some enterprising families, if they are very rich and they have military skills, they can fight well and they are brave and powerful, they also can create their kingdoms. Here example is given, two Brahmanas were there, so they created their kingdoms. One was Kadamba Mayur Sharman, they created Karnataka kingdom, and Gujr Pratihara kingdom was also created by Harichandra in Rajasthan. So these people, they were not lords and samant, but they also created their kingdom because they were strong and powerful. Administration in the kingdoms. How the administration was run in these kingdoms, how they used to govern these areas. Kings used to get these big titles like Maharaja Adhiraj. Its meaning is great king or overlord of the kings. Means many kings are working under him. Or they will get the title Tribhuvan Chakravartin. Its meaning is lord of the three worlds. Means they are so very powerful and despotic kind of rulers. But in reality it was not so. They did not have all the powers in their hands. They shared powers with their samantas. So these samantas were there who were given certain rights to make the policies and decide their issues. And there were associations, organizations of peasants as well as traders as well as brahmanas. So their organizations were there and they also were given some rights. So all the powers were not with the king, he had shared power with these people. And resources were obtained from producers. Its meaning is that rulers will take tax from people, generally farmers living there, growing crops, so they will give revenue to the ruler. Other method of getting resources was the ruler will take tax from traders, so that also will help king acquiring certain resources which he can use for his kingdom's development. What kind of taxes he used to collect from people? Many types of taxes have been described here. First tax was veti. A tax in form of forced labor means these farmers or laborers, they were required to work for the king. Maybe that could be decided like 3 days in a week or 2 days in a week, that depends on the situation, but they were forced to work for the ruler in form of tax. Another tax was Kadamai tax, that was land revenue, simple agricultural tax. If you are growing crops, so you have to give a certain amount to the ruler. Another tax was a tax which was on house thatching. Like if you are making one story house, then less tax. Then if you want to make it double story house, then more tax you will give. So that was laid how many roofs you have over your head. So that tax was imposed on people. Another tax was for using a ladder to climb palm trees. This text was also, it looks weird in reading, but this tax was also imposed on people. Another tax was a kind of cess. Cess is also a type of tax basically, and it was taken from any person who is inheriting his father's property. Like father died, now his property will go to his son. Now it will be transferred on the name of his son, so then he has to pay tax, and that tax also was taken by these rulers. So here five types of taxes have been described in this passage. Further, if like taking so much tax from people, how this tax will be used? This will be used to finance king's establishment, like whatever works kings are doing in their kingdom. So for that, this money will be used. Or the king can build temples, he can build forts for the protection of people, he can fight wars with that money. And to acquire wealth, generally these kings will fight wars with neighboring kingdoms. Then after the war, if they are victorious, they will plunder the land, they will acquire the land, and they will acquire trade routes. Suppose somebody has attacked a kingdom which is lying in this region, so here whatever wealth is there in temples or anywhere, that will be taken by them. Here certain ports are there on the sea coast, so if these ports are under any king, so this route also is under his control. So this way, when they will fight wars and acquire the region of other king, they will acquire these things: wealth, land, and trade routes. They will appoint certain officials to collect tax, and these officers will be appointed or recruited from influential families. Maybe these are the families of samantas and rich farmers and like that. And the position of these officers was hereditary, means if one officer dies, then there will be no new vacancy for that post. That person's son will be appointed on the same post. This is called hereditary, means the son will acquire the post of father. Same pattern was followed in army also. In army, high posts of commanders and all that were given to the close relatives of the ruler, and if that commander or officer dies, that same post will be given to his son. Let us talk about Prashastis and land grants. Basically, these are two important things in this chapter. Prashasti is something written while appreciating someone. For example, you want to praise a king. See, Prashasti word has come from Hindi word Prashansha. You are appreciating, so you are writing, and so that becomes a Prashasti. Land grants are the grants which are given in form of land, like ruler will give land to somebody, and this is called land grant. So these prashastis, generally these are considered that they are not literally true. There can be certain exaggeration of facts, like they have described facts in very exaggerated manner, and these are not near the truth. But at least they tell us how kings wanted to depict themselves. They wanted that we should be seen as valiant, very brave, we should be seen as warriors, and these prashastis were composed by brahmanas. Last year you must have read about Samudragupta's Prashasti. Samudragupta was a Gupta ruler, and his Prashasti is also known as Allahabad Pillar inscription or Prayag Prashasti, that was written by his court poet Hari Sen, and it has described Samudragupta in a highly appreciative manner. So these Prashastis sometimes give us information about defeats and victories of the kings, but these cannot be considered literally true. Nagabhatta's Prashasti. One example is given in your chapter. Nagabhatta was a Pratihara king, and his Prashasti is found in Gwalior, which is a place in MP, Madhya Pradesh. And this Prashasti says that he had defeated king of Andhra, Vidarbha, Kalinga, Kannauj, Anarta, which is part of Gujarat, and Malwa, which is in Madhya Pradesh, and Kirata. Kiratas were tribal people who were living in the forest. Turks, Vatsa was a kingdom, and Matsya was also a kingdom. So this Prashasti of Nagabhatta, it says that he had defeated these kings, and it praises Nagabhatta. Brahmadeya, it was a type of land which was given to Brahmanas by the rulers. So whatever is given to Brahmana, see, Deya means Deya has come from give. Brahma, here it is for Brahmana. If somebody has given a land to any Brahmana, that land will be called Brahmadeya. So, but whenever any ruler will give this land to any Brahman, this will be recorded on a copper plate. It will be engraved on a copper plate, and this copper plate will be given to that Brahman. And along with that land, what other things were given to that Brahmana? These things, whatever is present in the boundaries of that area which is given to this Brahmana, all will be of that Brahmana. For example, if a Brahmana is given 2 villages, and in these 2 villages there are gardens, there are mines, there are minerals, forest, crops, people, everything. Now everything will be under the control of this Brahmana. If crops, people are growing crops, then he will take tax from people. If any mines are there, he will be the owner of those mines. Gardens are there, he will be owner of everything. Like whatever is present in these boundaries, that will be given to that Brahmana who is granted this land. In North India also, land was granted to Brahmanas, and that land was called Agrahara. Agrahara. Term is different, but the process is same. Okay, let us move to further slide. Here another example of such book is given, like Prashastis were there which were not considered literally true, but Kalhan is considered a historian, and he has written one book, Raj Tarangini, means river of kings. It is a long poem which is written by Kalhan, and in that it is written in Sanskrit, and in this he describes the rulers of Kashmir from ancient times, and for that he has used many inscriptions, or other than inscriptions there could be certain documents. Whatever he could find, whatever scientific evidences he could find, he used that, and he has written Rasrangini, and he is not appreciating the rulers unnecessarily. He has given appropriate description, and even sometimes he is criticizing any ruler if he finds something wrong. So this way we can say that Kalhan's book Rasrangini is trustworthy and near truth. Warfare and wealth. Warfare means wars generally, and how these used to acquire wealth. Generally these wars were fought between different kings to acquire wealth. Kannauj is such example. Kannauj was a very important place for these kings. So for this Kannauj, three kings were fighting against each other: Gurjar Pratihara, Rashtrakutas, and Palas. And because three rulers were involved in this, so this struggle was called tripartite struggle. And whenever any ruler is victorious, he would build temple to show his power. And generally in these wars, temples would be attacked for their wealth, because in India temples were carrying or storing so much wealth, so they were very important, and people would attack if they want wealth. Any enemy would attack the temples. Here in your book only it is discussed just for an example, otherwise it has no connection with these Rashtrakutas and these people. Mahmud of Ghazni, he was ruler of Ghazni, which is a place in Afghanistan. His name was Mahmud. He ruled from 1997 to 1030. He raided India 17 times, and basically he attacked temple city just to plunder the wealth which was stored in the temples. Afterwards, even he had attacked Somnath temple, and he had taken gates of Somnath temple along with him. Al-Biruni was a scholar from his kingdom. He was appointed by him to write something about India. So Al-Biruni, he wrote Kitab al-Hind. He came in Punjab and Sindh region, stayed there for years. He learnt Sanskrit, and he translated some Sanskrit books as well. And in his book Kitab al-Hind, he has described his feelings about people of India. Next rulers in this chapter are Chauhans or Chamhans. These were very important rulers who ruled in the region of Delhi and Ajmer, and they wanted to expand their kingdom, but they were opposed by Chalukyas and Gadwals of western Uttar Pradesh. Prithviraj Chauhan was the most famous ruler of this kingdom, and he had defeated Muhammad Ghori in 1191. But the next year in 1192, Muhammad Ghori came back, defeated Prithviraj Chauhan, and killed him. And Muhammad Ghori is considered founder of Muslim rule in India. Founder of Muslim rule in India. Okay, let's move further. Let us talk about Cholas. Cholas, how they acquired power, this is described here. Basically, there was a chiefly family, means there was a family of Samantas, and they were known as Mutariyar. They held power in Kaveri Delta, and they were the subordinates of Pallava rulers who were ruling in Kanchipuram. So, Vijaya, who belonged to Chola family, he defeated them and got Kaveri Delta, captured Kaveri Delta from them in 9th century. So Vijaya is considered as the founder of Chola kingdom. Founder. He built city of Tanjavur. He built a temple of goddess Nishumbh Sudni. Nishumbh Sudni must be goddess Durga, because Nishumbh was a demon which was killed by a goddess. So this temple must be of goddess. Successors also expanded his kingdom. His son was also very brave and powerful. So he also further continued the policy of attacking others and expanding his kingdom. He defeated Pandyas and Palwas and acquired their territories. Further, next, let us discuss about Rajaraja I. He was the most powerful Chola ruler, and he ascended the throne in 1985 AD. He was so strong and skillful warrior, defeated many other kings and expanded the boundaries of his kingdom. He reorganized the administration, means he did certain changes in governing his kingdom. And then there was his son Rajendra I. He was also very brave and powerful and expanded his kingdom up to Ganga Valley, Sri Lanka and Southeast Asian countries. Cholas had a very strong navy also. Splendid temples and bronze sculpture. This was specialty of Cholas. Many splendid temples were built at Tanjavur and Gangaikonda Cholapuram. And these Chola temples, these were center of settlements. Nuclei here means center. Settlement means a village or a city. Any village or city where people are living. Basically, temples has so many activities to be done, so people would come and start settling around them, and so it will develop as town or city. These temples were centers of craft production, and these temples were given land by the rulers and by some rich people also. That land will be considered totally under the temple, and whatever production was there on that land, that will be used to maintain the people who are working for the temple. For example, priests, garland makers, cooks, sweepers and dancers. Temples were hub of social and cultural activities also. Social and cultural activities means there they will celebrate certain festivals. So then people will gather there, some cultural activity can take place. So this temple was center of these activities as well. Many of bronze images which are found in these temples, these are famous and these are finest in the world. Most of the images were of gods and goddesses, but some of the images are of devotees as well. Devotee means bhakt. So here that doesn't mean whosoever is going into the temple, so they will make statue of that person. It was not like that. Some famous saints, like there is one saint who is a follower of Lord Shiva. He keeps singing songs, devotional songs. Many people become his followers. He dies. So after this saint will be considered he is a devotee of Lord Shiva. So this his image also they can make in bronze and keep in temple and worship. So this way these images which are found from these places, these are of gods and goddesses as well as of some saints. Agriculture and irrigation. Let us discuss about this also. Basically, Cholas became powerful and so strong because of the agriculture. Kaveri delta is very fertile because Kaveri brings water from these far off areas, and before falling in Bay of Bengal, it gets distributed its water like this, and so much silt is deposited in these areas, and these areas become very fertile. So here you can grow crops. So same happened with these Chola people. They used these areas for growing rice and they became very prosperous. In 5th and 6th century, Tamil Nadu region opened up for large scale irrigation. Now they started irrigation techniques as well. Now the production of their agriculture increased. For that, for increasing the production, they had cleared the forest. Like population has grown so much and now land is less, so they will cut the forest and they will make that land for agriculture. They will start growing crops. Any land which is now not smooth, it will be leveled up and made. If any land is like this, so but it will be leveled means it will be made smooth, and then they will start growing crop on this. So this also helped in increasing the production. Embankments also were built in the delta region so that there will be no flood whenever there is extra water in the river. Embankment means they will make some kind of check dams or anything like that to stop the water overflowing. Canals were also constructed. These were also helpful for irrigation and these increased the production. Certain artificial irrigation methods were also used by these people. They dig wells in areas where rivers were not available. They built huge tanks in some areas to collect the rainwater. Areas such as rocky surface is there. So that water, whatever they will collect, that will not sip into the earth. So here they can make these huge tanks. Water will be stored and they could use it whenever required for agriculture. People as well as rulers took active participation in all the activities like organizing labor and resources and maintaining them. And that was the reason that all these things could be completed successfully, like digging the canals and wells and tanks, etc. Let us discuss about the administration of the empire at lower level. Peasant settlements were called Ur or villages. Ur was equal to village. Okay. Then a group of Ur or group of villages was called Nadu. There was one village council and Nadu. These both worked. They gave justice to people and they collected taxes, etc. Rich peasants who were called Velala, they controlled the affairs of the Nadu. Like earlier also we had discussed that influential people were given important posts. So here rich peasants also they controlled many affairs of Nadu and they got important positions. Chola kings gave these people titles like Muvindavilan, a Velan or peasant serving three kings, or Arayar. Its meaning is chief, means these officers, these rich peasants who were collecting tax, etc., they were given these titles. And they used to appoint them on high posts also. Types of land. Let us discuss how many types of land was there. One type was Velan Vegai, land of non-Brahmana peasants. Like this was the land for the peasants who were not Brahmanas, like farmers who were farmers. Their land was known as Velan Vegai. Another type of land was Brahmadeya. I had explained already. It was a land gifted to Brahmanas. Another was Shalabhoga, land for maintenance of school. You can learn it like school is known as Pathshala. So for school, whatever land was given, that was known as Shalabhoga. And suppose 20 acres of land is given to one school, whatever will be produced, and if something that is sold, some money comes, that will be used for maintaining the school and its expenses like salary to the teachers or books for the students, etc. Devadana. Next type of land is Devadana. As it is clear from the name, Devadana means they have donated it to God. Another type of land was Tirunamatu Kani. It was gifted to the temples. So if any land is given to God in donation, so that will be considered that this land is given to temples. So whatever land grants were given to temples, these were used, these names were used for those type of lands. Another type of land was also there, Palichandam. That Palichandam was gifted to Jaina institutions, like Jain monasteries can be there where monks live. So for them also you need such kind of lands for different uses. So this land was called Palichandam. A number of Brahmana settlement grew in Kaveri Delta because of Brahmadeya, because so much land was given to Brahmanas, so they also will start settling in Kaveri Delta. And there were different organizations of Brahmanas. These were called Sabha or assembly, and very important and influential Brahmanas were members of these Sabhas. And these sabhas or assemblies, they worked in a very effective manner and maintained their lands. Whatever decisions were taken by these assemblies, these were recorded in inscriptions, and often on these were engraved on the stone walls of temples. Another association which was found in town was known as Nagaram. These were the associations of traders who used to govern towns. Let us talk about Sabha or assembly. Sabha is a Hindi word, and then assembly is its English version. These Sabhas and assemblies, they had many committees, and these committees were given different works to complete, like gardens. One committee will take care of garden, another committee will take care of temples, another committee can take care of irrigation, another committee can take care of roads, etc. So this way many committees were there which were working under the Sabha or assembly, and they were maintaining their things properly. Members of these committees were chosen by a small boy. You should understand this, how a small boy will choose the members of these committees. Suppose there are 20 members, they want to be member of these committees, but in committee they have to take 10 people. So what they will do, they will take 20 pages of 20 palm leaves, and on that they will write the names of these 20 members. Then they will put all these palm leaves in a pot. They will put palm leaves in a pot where names are written, names of candidates are written, and then they will call a small boy. The small boy, they will tell him, just pick any 10 leaves from this. So the boy will take out 10 leaves, and then they will see the names. Whosoever's names are written on those leaves, those 10 people are now selected. So this way a small boy will select the members of committees. So what was the criteria to become a member of Sabha? The person should have his own land, and he should pay revenue to the ruler. He should have his own home. His age should be between 35 to 70. He should have knowledge of Vedas, and he should be well versed in administrative matters. Its meaning is that he should know how to govern the areas properly, and above all he should be honest. So if a person has all these qualities, he can stand in the elections. Other terms and conditions used by these people: if anyone has been a member of any committee in last 3 years, then he would not be allowed to be member of any other committee. If anyone has not submitted his accounts or those of his relatives, then he will not be allowed to stand in the elections. What kind of account? Suppose somebody is member of one committee and he has many documents pending, like how much money was used for this purpose, something was given as transportation, how much was the total profit, and then all these things, such kind of accounts. If he has not submitted, then he will not be allowed to stand in the elections. Or even if his relative has not submitted, for that also he will not be allowed to stand in the elections. In the end, in your chapters, there was some description about outcasts. These outcasts are like untouchables, who were considered very low by these rich peasants and vellalas and other people. And there were certain small agrarian laborers as well. They used to wear iron jewelry. They were not allowed to wear that kind of clothes and luxurious life. So this description, if the question is asked about the society, so you I'm sure you will tell about rich people, velalas, peasants, samantas, rulers, but you should describe little bit about untouchables as well, that there were poor people also who used to live outside the villages or cities. Here I want to tell you, dear students, for you I have prepared certain activities which are given in the description of this video. So how you can play those activities, and you will be able to understand chapter in a better way. So a description means, if suppose you have started watching this video, this scene will come before you. So at the right bottom of that video you can see this tick. You will click on this tick. When you will click on this tick, then you will find this kind of page before you, this kind of page. So these are the links, these are the links. You click on any link of any activity. When you will click on this, then such kind of page will appear before you, such kind of page. Here they are asking activity code. You don't need to fill it. Simply you will click on this play. When you will click on this play, then you will find this page before you, and here again you have to click on play once more. Then your activity will start. The question will be before you. 4 options will be there. You will click any option, then your marks will be given here and you will be told how much you have performed. This is very enjoyable. Try to play that. Thank you. May God bless you. If you have any doubt, write in the comment box. If you want any video on some other topic, that also write in comment box.